Happy Thursday, Beck.
Happy Thursday, Sally.
Welcome back, everyone. Today's episode is our little side hustle from Nap Trapped, which is Sleep Detectives. And this is where we, as your sleep consultants, answer the burning baby sleep questions that you're thinking about. And if you're thinking about them, guaranteed somebody else is living and breathing it too. And so we're going to just dive in and answer them for you.
Yep,
Should we
let's
crack
get
on?
stuck in. Yeah, for sure.
All right. This question came in. Should we be holding flailing arms down for a 5-month-old to settle, wakes up otherwise? This is something that I think occurs when we make the transition out of a swaddle, that babies, it's almost like a rite of passage, that a lot of babies suddenly find these two flappy hands, and it can really interrupt sleep, and it can feel very tricky for parents to navigate, perhaps because they had great sleep when swaddled, and now it's how on earth do we get a baby to adjust to this transition? I wouldn't be holding arms down.
Yeah, I think it probably stems from having a decent nap, and now their little one's arms are out and then they can't link that sleep cycle. And then there's that anxiety of like, oh, I really need this nap to be the longer one, or whatever it might be. I'm with you. I wouldn't hold the arms down. I think that it's probably just something that's going to work its way out. It's just a little phase, a little blip on the radar, and I would probably prefer you just sort of delay for a little while, and
Delay
present
getting
an
out of the
opportunity.
swaddle?
Yeah. Well, two things: delay getting them up. Say if they've finished the nap early and they're flapping around, and you're wanting them to link the sleep cycle. Delay getting them up for a little while just to see if actually they flap around for a little bit, and then they take themselves back off to sleep. So back them. That's a really key element with baby sleep, is you've got to back your little one, and see what happens. So instead of sort of rushing straight in there because they've got flappy arms and wanting to do and solve the issue and so forth, maybe just wait and see what happens. And if they are really struggling and you need to lengthen that nap, then you can assist back to sleep. Like I would maybe hold back to sleep, but I certainly wouldn't be holding down and trying to encourage a longer nap that way. But yeah, in terms of like nights and so forth, if they are waking up and flapping, I would not be holding. I'd be letting them do their thing.
Yeah. A part of me also thinks to what end? So if we start holding or adding in any other kind of assistance, then that becomes the new crutch. And so a baby we want them to figure out, how do I get comfy with my arms free? There's lots of these sort of micro transitional moments where I think sleep can wobble, such as coming out of the swaddle, same as when they first start to roll in their sleep and they roll on their tummy and then scream and say, hey, how do I get back? Even if they might know how to, and they continue to roll. And you kind of just have to support them and guide them through it whilst they figure out, okay, I feel comfy here. I can put my arms up here. I can suck my thumb like this. Also, similarly, sometimes we see babies when they have moved from the bassinet to a cot, and some babies love to sleep up against the mesh siding, and then we move them into their cot and they maybe bop their head, or they haven't found that little comfy spot. It's not about fixing, and it's not about holding them down. It is actually about supporting them through this change, and usually less is more, so that they have an opportunity to figure it out, because all babies have to be unswaddled at some point. All babies will go through that transition and have a degree of flailing arms. You just got to ride it out and it will come good. If you just let them figure it out and just reassure them every now and again, they will figure it out very quickly, rather than you holding them down and then that becoming the crutch.
And typically that's a stage where they are flapping, but then once they are able to roll over onto their tummy, they tend to sort of prefer to sleep on their tummies anyway. And so that sort of flapping movement starts to sort of disappear and it's no longer an issue. So yeah, like you said, lots of stages of micro. What was the terminology you used? I thought it was really good just there. Micro transitional.
Moments of transition.
Yeah.
Micro transitional moments. Oh, there we go. Should we copyright Copyright.
Yeah. No, I love it. It's great.
Trademark that.
Yeah.
But it's true. There's so many of these moments when they learn to stand, when they learn to say mama, when they can have
Yeah.
a drink. Like there's so
Mm.
many of these. So it's really
Yeah.
just about just letting them move through this transition. And you can also be responsive and supportive, but they won't get through it if you do it for them.
Yeah. That's great.
All right, let's move on to question number 2. Um, all right, Beck, I'm going to give this one to you. Best tips for ditching the dummy if it's become a problem with night wakes.
Best tips for ditching the dummy. So if you've decided that it's time to get rid of it, I would actually just go cold turkey. There's no real
Agreed.
simple
Yep.
way to to do it. Cold turkey is best. I would do it for the entire night. I tend to keep it for naps for
Same.
a short period of time, mainly because you want the naps to go well so that they're going into the night well rested and not overtired. Because well rested little ones are going to be able to manage a new process or a new settling strategy a whole lot easier than if they're cooked because they haven't had the dummy for their naps and the whole day's gone kind of tits up. So I would keep the dummy for the naps and then work on eliminating it overnight. You have to have a really clear plan of how you're going to respond to your little one when they do
Absolutely.
wake looking for the dummy. That's super important. So, yeah.
Whether it's a sleep training technique, you just fully assisting them to sleep as you navigate this change. I think this also highlights how you can do one thing for naps and something different for nights. And as listeners will know, you and I will often do fully assisted naps during the day whilst we teach self-settling and conquer nights. And this is another example. You can keep it during the day because if you go cold turkey during the day and night, which is absolutely possible, it can feel like a lot of crying. And one of the biggest difference between naps and nights is that at bedtime and overnight, not only do you have 12 hours to master this new pattern and skill of sleeping without the dummy, but sleep pressure and hormones are on your side compared to 1 o'clock in the middle of the day where it just gets trickier as naps go on. So we can stagger the process and make it sustainable, teach the skill at bedtime and overnight. But as you said, you have to have a rock solid plan of how you are going to guide your baby through this. And it usually only takes a couple of nights.
Yeah,
Then
it's not usually
they
a
don't.
long-winded. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, yeah.
It's more, I think, the fear of the unknown that we're taking away this huge crutch. Oh my goodness, how is this going to feel? How is baby going to react? But if you go into the night, no, great, we'll use the dummy to get these naps under our belt during the day. Great feeds, great schedule, all the things. Okay, we're gonna help baby through this.
And hold steady with what you've got going on overnight. So, for example, if your little one is, say, 7 months and you're going to get ditched the dummy and you've got one feed overnight and it's usually after 2:30, you need to make sure you're holding that so you don't switch any elements around of your night. You're responding in exactly the same way to all wakings overnight in the way that you would ditch dummy.
So a feed doesn't sneak back in at 10:30 when they haven't had that for 4 months. Yes, good point. Yep. It's a bit of a project, but it's absolutely possible. And cold turkey, I'm with you, is the way to go. Okay, here is actually another dummy question. 6-month-old wakes at 5:30 a.m. and I use the dummy to resettle, but they can self-settle and resettle for all naps and bedtime.
Oh, yeah.
I think this is really normal. I think this is okay because 5:30 a.m. we know is a really fragile time of the morning. Sleep pressure is on its way out. Melatonin has run its course to an extent. A lot of babies want to wake in the fives. If sleep is otherwise good, I would say this is a normal expectation to have if we've got a dummy in the mix when a baby can't yet replace it on their own. So if it's just a matter of I go in at 5:30, pop the dummy back in, and out we go, and you see them at somewhere between 6:30 and 7, fantastic, until they can replace it on their own, which is often closer to 7 to 9 months.
Yeah, and I would even think that even if you had to go in a couple of times between 5:30 and 7 with the dummy, that's the power of the dummy. That's why I love a dummy. Like if you can extend a
You
nap, if you
definitely love
can,
it more than me. I'm like, let's
yeah,
get rid of
so
this variable.
yeah, I do love a dummy, but yeah, I feel like that's working, and that's exactly why a dummy can be super helpful in all those scenarios.
And I think it's good to just talk about the normal expectations because I think people listening might not be sure about, oh, hang on, why doesn't the dummy just get popped back in and it is just smooth sailing after that one resettle? Is it the dummy? Is it it? Your baby cannot replace it yet on their own, I'm guessing, at 6 months old. And so this would be a completely normal expectation without it being a problem we necessarily need to fix. As always, when I read that question, my brain also goes through a million other things like, is there another reason why there could be a disturbance at 5:30 a.m.? Are they waking a bit chilly? And then we notice the dummy has fallen out. So it's always worth doing a quick audit of schedule, environment, feeds, etc., etc. But if the dummy's doing the trick, and if I just read this at face value, pop it back in, resettle, see you at wake up time.
Yep, perfect.
Cool. Okay. Oh, we've had lots of questions about younger babies. Often we talk about older ones, so this is nice to have a bit of a change. When
Yeah.
should I drop night feeds? Just turned 4 months and has 1 to 2 a night.
Well, like 1 to 2 a night is absolutely age appropriate for four
I think
months.
that's
So I wouldn't,
fantastic.
yeah, I'd be really chuffed if I was in that position, and I certainly wouldn't be looking to drop any feeds.
Mm,
Couple of reasons. There is, the 4 month regression that sort of creeps into the mix. And so if you've got two feeds and they're typically at, say, 11 and 4, then when the regression starts and you've got more wakings happening, you can keep your even Stevens over the course of the
hmm
night. And so you just, you keep it all up without fear that actually some of these additional wakings are from genuine hunger. So I would sort of
Yeah.
keep that going. Um, and two, we don't need to be in a rush. I know that there is,
Mm,
plenty of sleep consultants out there who want all little ones to be sleeping through the night before the age of 12 weeks. And I know you don't, we don't subscribe to
yeah.
that. Great if your
Can
little one
some?
can and they do it
Yeah.
all, organically and totally fine. That's awesome. But it's not something that we actively work towards. So no rush. If you want to keep your two feeds in, totally fine. I always feel like when you're getting to introducing solids and so forth, then you can
Mm,
start to look at feeds. And, we sort of do a really careful balance of making sure that milk feeds are the main nutritional element, uh, incorporating solids so you can start to sort of reduce and eliminate some feeds, if not all feeds overnight. But yeah, up until at 4 months, I wouldn't be thinking about
no,
necessarily
and I
doing away with any
think
all feeds.
the word drop, as in when should I drop night feeds? I think often we don't need to do the dropping. Let baby's natural hunger pattern sort of shine through, and chances are they'll drop one themselves. And
Mm.
particularly this age, I wouldn't be looking to, resettle it out. I think kudos. We work with much older babies that are having more than 1 to 2 feeds overnight, who are probably listening to this
Mm.
wishing that their
Yeah.
their 11-month-old baby was only down to 1 to 2 feeds a night. So I think I'm with
Yeah.
you, Beck. I think this is incredibly age appropriate. I think pat on the back to mum and baby.
Mm.
It can feel never ending. Will my baby ever sleep through? Absolutely, they will.
Mm.
It just doesn't have to be at just turned 4 months, even if the next door neighbour's baby is doing it.
Mm.
1 to 2 is great. Okay, this one just came through. At what age can you start a routine for a newborn? Is 8 weeks too early?
Ooh, I love this age group for starting a bit
Mm,
of rhythm and routine. Not a strict routine in the sense that, you've got, feeds at 7 o'clock in your first nap and,
mm,
and you're working all through the day. Like that can be very difficult because, one, we can't predict exactly how long our little ones are going to sleep for and so forth. So that it makes it really hard as a newborn and we kind of want to be flexible at this age.
mhm,
But in terms of creating a routine, yes, I feel like you want to try and start your day at the same time, work towards the same sort of bedtime each night, and for the most part, create a really nice bedtime routine leading into your evening. And I think that as the day goes on, you'll probably find that your feeds are settling down at this sort of time frame. You might sort of have more predictable feeds, and your wake windows, of course, are probably going to be very similar. So there is a bit of a rhythm that sort of starts to exist around this sort of age, but a strict routine I probably wouldn't be, pushing for.
I desperately craved some rhythm and routine at exactly 8 weeks with my first baby. And so the change that I made was that we woke up at 7 a.m. every single
Yep.
morning and started with a feed. And I opened the blinds, I turned the bedside lamp on, and I noticed the first couple of mornings she was super snoozy through the feed. It wasn't this like great, huge breastfeed.
Like,
It was pretty snoozy.
oh,
Yeah,
Oh,
like, oh, I'm
yeah.
so glad you woke me for this. I was ravenous. No, she just kind of snoozed through it. But over the just a couple of days or the first week of doing that, I just found the feed got her body clock molded to it. So she took a full feed at 7. It also meant that even if the rest of the day sort of went pear-shaped, I'd at least started working on that first wake window. And then I created a little 5-minute mini wind down routine before the nap. And then nap 1 and nap 2, it didn't matter to me how long it went for, but what I would do is practice it in the cot. And so, or the bassinet, I would swaddle, I would do all of these foundations that I wanted to set the stage for ongoing success and consistency. And that is a version of routine at 8 weeks of age. And even if the night was a shocker, I put a line through it. My alarm went off at 7 a.m. We got up and we started our day. And that is still the case in our house now, 6.5 years on. We restart the day at 7 as a household. And the other thing I also did was at that age, and I would recommend this, is that if your baby is not, if they're having a cot or a bassinet nap, is to look to now work to light and dark. So we want to work with their developing circadian rhythm, and having a really nice sort of 8 to 9 out of 10 dark room at this age can really start help. Particularly, I think at 8 weeks of age, babies wake up, as in like they wake up to the world. And so
Yep.
if we can help their melatonin production to say, hey, keep snoozing. It's really nice in there. Keep going. Nice firm swaddle. And as you mentioned, Beck, then having just a little ritual at bedtime, even if bedtime's at 9:30, not, the 7 p.m. that you'll eventually get to. It's just about doing the same series of events over and over so that little natural pattern-seeking brain can clue in. And yeah, that would be kind of the extent for me. But definitely, I remember 8 weeks on the dot, I was like, I need to know what's coming next. I need to start my
Yeah.
day. I need to get dressed and have a
Enough
shower.
winging it.
Yeah, enough winging it. And if the rest of the day I need to wing it, but I need, the first few hours, if not the first half of the day, to feel more consistent.
Yeah. My back half of the day was fairly similar each day as well because I would want to go out for a walk for that final nap. Towards the end of the day, because like you said, like the mornings can somewhat go pretty smoothly because you're setting the day up. You're setting the time of the wake, and the first nap will always sort of be roughly the same. And then things can go a little bit skew-whiff as the day goes on. But for me, I tried to sort of wind it all back at that final nap, and that would be in the pram. So we'd go out for a walk at the end of the day and get that motion nap because quite often at the end of the day, neurologically, they're tapping out. They're very, very buggered by this stage and
Hello,
it can feel
witching
very
hour.
overwhelming. Yeah. So you kind of want to get a really good nap in at that point. And then from the moment that nap ends, that's when you are doing your, include that water element in terms of your bedtime routine. And then, a quick water element, whether it's a top and tail or a bath, and then your feed and then into bed so that you don't have this big section of time that you're trying to fill, which can lead into that whole witching hour scenario. So yes, you can definitely, from what we've, just sort of mentioned, there are certain ways that you can start to create routine for your 8-week-old, but it doesn't necessarily look like nap from 9:30 to 10:15,
Yeah.
12:30 to 2:15, like those types of things we hold off for a little bit older.
Yeah.
But
And I think if you're listening and wondering, well, when can I work to more of that sort of structured nap? For me, I will create a schedule at 3 months, but with a lot of caveats and a lot of flexibility. It's more just about, okay, how can we get these feeds in and
mm,
just reshaping the day in general. But really from 4 months onwards, I can confidently say, okay, we're going to start working to this, whether it's for short naps, I'll happily take that. Or if a baby is able to take longer naps, great, we can work with that too. But just know that it's closer to the 4 to 5 months mark where we're working to more of a nap schedule.
yeah, that's correct.
Excellent. I think we've got time for one more. And
Yeah,
this is a
one
really good
more.
one because,
Yes.
Beck, you and I will often talk about how we like to anchor feed. So, meaning we work to space feeding when we are working with families to fix a sleep issue. And the reason for that is we want to know that a baby has had a full and complete feed, a nice full tummy as we look to drop night feeds. Maybe if they are on many night feeds overnight. And to set wake windows and naps up for success. And one of the questions we often get asked is, how do I make the stretch? And I'll use this question as an example. For a baby, 6.5 months old, who is used to feeding every 2.5 to 3 hours through the day, how do you distract them to last 4 hourly? I feel like he'd be very grumpy. And this is a really common question and normal experience when we make this change and we're working to 4 hourly feeds from roughly 4 months onwards.
I mean, if it was easy as just putting a clown suit on and just using the juggling balls to distract them and keep them happy, then we would all be doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is certainly really hard. And like as we all know as parents, 5 minutes of hard moments with our babies feels like 5 hours. Like it's really hard. And
Yeah.
so that's why
Yep.
when we're trying to stretch a feed to 4 hours and you're at the 2.5 hour mark and they're already starting to get pretty irritated,
Mm.
it feels like a lifetime before you can feed. But typically, and you want to do anything that you can. Like I would go out to the litter box and dick around out there, and like
Yep.
look at the mail and have a look at my garden, or I might, you sort of think outside
Pat
the
the
square. You've kind
dog.
of got to pat the dog. You've got to go
Yeah.
like think of everything in 5 minute increments and just sort
Mm.
of move around your house and try and use the art of distraction. But there is probably likely going to be some tears, and there is
Mm.
that uncomfortable moment that comes with change. And we just have to be prepared for it and know that it's not going to be a forever thing. Usually, when we're trying to stretch feeds, it's just the one
Mm.
moment in time
It's that one
because
first 4 hourly
it's
stretch.
the first hour block. Yeah, because then once you've got that feed, they are tanked up. They've got
Mm.
so much more milk under their belt, and they're ready to do the next big stretch, like a bigger stretch than they were beforehand, because their previous feed was only going to get them through that 2.5 hours before. So there is that hard
Mm.
marker in time, but the 4 hour feed means that they're going to tank up with 4 hours worth of milk. So that's why
And,
it
and
can
and then
just
you're
work.
on the up.
You are on the up. So
Yeah.
keep at it. Like it is really difficult. I know that that's what puts a lot of families off in terms of like, but I don't think my little one would be able to stretch. They can, they will. It's hard, but you'll get through it. And then you'll see that it was actually a really quick transition to a 4 hour feed schedule.
Mm. I was chatting last week to a mother with a 5 month old who started working to 4 hourly and kid breastfeeds. And she said that in and of itself was a complete game
Mm,
changer for her.
yeah.
And she had, I think sometimes also it can be a bit trickier if you're breastfeeding because we know there's a bit more of a tendency, we're taught more so to feed on demand, and we know that there's more tendency to feed for comfort, and there's more to it than just nutrition. More so, I find often than with bottle feeding. This particular mother had actually formula fed her first baby and then was breastfeeding her second. And so she
Yeah.
was kind of used to the feeding schedule and was like, well, surely my breastfed baby can do it. And I'm feeling tapped out from this ongoing snacking. she had been able to do it with her formula fed baby, so she did it with her breastfed baby. And it just went to show that in the space of one feed, if not 1 day max, this baby was now taking complete, full, beautiful breastfeeds at 4 hourly. And she could back herself and back her supply and back her baby because she had done it with a formula fed baby as well. So I think you often say, Beck, sometimes we just have to push the friendship. And I think that's a really good way. They just don't know that they're about to get this huge feed. They just don't know. And it's coming. And also remember that in the time, so this baby's 6.5 months old in this question, that in this time there will be a nap in the 4 hours. And you can even go for a drive. It can be done in the pram, the carrier, especially if we're breaking out of a feed to sleep association or a top up to sleep association. You will get a moment of reprieve from a cranky baby because there is a nap in there and they don't have to work for it if you're following along with how we would make the change. So grizzle, grizzle, nap, grizzle, grizzle, big feed, never look back. That's how I usually see it go.
Yeah, the reprieve. Right. I love how you've mentioned that. It's very good. Yes.
We all need to know that there's a reprieve coming. Okay, well, I think that is us for the Sleep Detectives. I actually love these episodes because you and I get to talk as sleep consultants and sort of hash it out together. And it gives, hopefully, listeners a bit of a feel of how we work with families and that there's always more to it than just the simple question, the things that are going through our minds. So we will continue to put weekly question boxes up and keep answering your sleep questions because we love to see them and love to answer them.
And of course, if you're feeling like you need extra help and you would like more specific information, you can always refer to our websites and sort of check out our packages and so forth there. We've got lots of options and we would always be happy to help. So
it is what we're here to do, and it can be very hard to execute and piece all of this together. So, yes, we are here to support you if needed. And otherwise, we'll see you next week on Sleep Detectives.
See you, team. Catch you later.
Bye.